Alright, and we're here for the first power rankings of 2023. Wait, where did it go on my screen? There you are. Alright. First power rankings of 2023. Why won't it go to it? What's happening? There you go. Alright, first power rankings of 2023. This intro has gone great. All of these videos are perfect. So this is coming out on February 1st. I think this was a Dalamar suggestion, and it was a good one. To instead of have me make the video like 3 days before and then go, don't know if this finished, and then maybe it did. Instead, actually just record it at the end of the month and have it go up at the start of the next month to, in fact, include every result from the prior month. So we had awards. I already talked about this in another video. I forget which one, but I advertised it on the Discord, so hopefully you found it. Here were some awards. Congrats to all the winners. In parentheses, I listed second, third, fourth place, depending on how many were close. But what happened this month? We had the weekly open, per usual. We had 2 of them. We had 2 GBs. I think the second one is fully finished and a new one starting. The usual stuff. We started bot GBs. The first one was a pretty big hit. The second one has tailed off, and they'll probably be an irregular event, but I suspect we'll still have some in the future. We had the Draft Cup, which was a small but very strong field. SE Zidane continued, Zidane, however you want to pronounce it. See, Zinedine Zidane, but FF is Zidane Tribal. That's how it works in my head, because I was much younger when I ran into Zidane Tribal for the first time. Your mileage may vary. That said, I'm not sure how much to weight SE Zidane. We are in winners semifinals in one part of the bracket, and I do want to credit people who are still alive, but if you're in losers, you're still a long way away from making an icon. It's pretty hard to make an icon. Winners semifinalists have earned a quarterfinal icon, and in fact, I think are guaranteed final 6. But that said, I'd like to see us in winners finals, and given that the tournament will be continuing into next month, we will have ample time to give them credit. The Fun World Cup finals did actually finish, but given that neither of the other players basically played any other events, and given that I gave them some credit in the past, I'm gonna I think just finishing the finals was not enough to get credit for that. So neither player there will make the list. But congrats to Chickeny, and I really enjoyed the games of that I caught. They were some of the more fun games I've seen. In general, they followed a formula of a weak starter leads, and I don't mean like weak numbers facing out, I mean like a poor starter leads to a really complex and interesting game where one player has to find really nice defensive concepts to hold. And Crescent found a few really nice saves and then eventually folded. But it's very hard to save, 3 really tough positions in a row. It just almost never happens. So I thought that was a really fun match. I really enjoyed those games, and I think a video at some point on some of them will come out. For February, the Fun Chaos Tournament and the CVC will both be relevant to rankings next month. Obviously, SE Zidane and the usual stuff will carry on. So let's get to our top 10, or in this case, our top 12. Obviously, only 10 will make the list, but all 4 of these players are semifinalists in Zidane, and none of them made top 4 in anything else. And usually for these lists, I just skim the top 4s. And if there's, some people that are close to each other, maybe I adjust at that point. But for the most part, I'm just like counting top 4s, and if you achieve 2 top 4s or 1 top 2, you have a very good shot to make the list. Now, all these players achieved a top winners semifinal, so a top 6 in the most prestigious and important tournament at the moment by far. But none of them came high in anything else. And normally, a top 6 result alone wouldn't make it, but of course Zidane is the most important thing. So, of these 4, Vid placed kind of close to top 4 in 3 different events, so I think Vid's going to come 9th, and Smokes played some other events, but did not score up to his usual standards, but I think I am going to give him the credit for that and put him 10th, and Zoom and Debonair do not make this list, but of course they have very good chance to make the next one, depending on how Zidane goes And also, there were a whole bunch of events this month, and I suspect, I might be wrong on this, there might be less going on next month. I'm not sure. But this is, it might also be that the field is more divided in who gets good results last month, in which case any of these could rise. It's possible I should have had them higher. Let's move on. In 8th, we have Piggyman. He won an event. Normally an event gets you a lot of credit winning it, but this was a pretty strongly fought over month, and this was a small tournament that I ran. On the other hand, he faced really good opposition. But on the other hand, he won it with a score of +1. This was not, he was unbeaten in the event. I think he did really well, but it was not some dominant score that went, wow, this is the greatest player of our age. Though, Piggyman's on a roll recently. He's gone very far in every event he's played, per usual. 7th, we have Celdur, who came 3rd in GB43 and came 2nd in the first bot GB, and that second really stood out because the top two were the smallest margin apart, and he put up an enormous score there. So really nicely played, and this is one event closed, one event open, which is always nice to see and really speaks to being a very strong player across formats. In 6th place, we have Midas, who was finalist in Chat Tournament 34 or Weekly Open 34 and came 4th in the first bot GB. You could switch Celdur in Midas's place if you wanted. This is how I felt 10 minutes ago when I put this list together. In 5th, we have Akiyama, who had a whole bunch of results. He came 3rd in the first bot GB, he came 3rd in GB42, and he's still alive in Zidane. And not only is he still alive, but he made it to winners quarterfinals, so he won't have to play his next game for another round or two. So he's in pretty decent shape to have a shot at a top 8 finish. Obviously, 4 of the top 8 spots are already taken, but 4 are available. And if you were betting on anyone to make it of the people left, Akiyama's a pretty good bet there. So a bunch of solid results across different formats. And basically his one weakness this month was he lost a few times to our number 3 placer. In 4th, we have Turdz. Turdz won the first bot GB and came 2nd in GB43. But I think it's a little better than that looks because he won them both with insane scores. Over, how many games was it against bots? Over 16 games against bots. I think he won 14 of them. He put up some insane score, just ridiculous. You can look at the bot GB standings. Turdz and Celdur were miles ahead of the field, where most people got, high-end finishers were scoring in the kind of 17 to 19 range. Turdz and Celdur were at 23, just so far ahead of everyone. And he also put up a 120 in a GB, which somehow didn't win, despite being, I'm very confident, a top 10 GB score all time. And there have been, 43 GBs, so putting up a top 10 score, that's going to win most of your GBs, somehow didn't here. So I think these are even better scores than they look, and it looks like a 1st and a 2nd place. In 3rd, we have Addy, and you could argue he should be behind Turdz here, but I actually think he's one of the hottest players going. He tied with Delial for GB42, and Delial took it on tie breaks, but I did want to give him credit for getting the same score there as the winner. And he came semi-finalist in CT34 and finalist in CT35, and he's still alive in Zidane. And if you look at his opposition, he knocked Akiyama out of both weekly opens. He is playing incredibly good triple triad. I've been running some stats on stuff. He has moved from all kind of active and semi-active players in the return. I had him ranked coming into this month somewhere around 30th and open on the site, and he's now threatening to enter the top 10. He started moving up when he beat me in Clan League, but he has been really following up that result with just tremendous results everywhere. He's always, he won Closed Player of the Year. He's always been devastating there, but he's wrecking everyone in open as well. And I was kind of came into this thinking, I feel like I want to put Addy first. I feel like he's the hottest player on the site right now. And we don't quite have the winner of events to back that up. But I am quite happy to put Addy third here. And I don't think he's a lot ahead of Turdz. And if you're like, this list is bullshit, Turdz should be third, that's fair. But I think Addy's been tremendous. In second, if you'll move, there we go. To start the new year, we have myself. I won both weekly opens. Yeah, I feel I played pretty well. I missed a few wins. I missed a win against Turdz when he had a really poor random. And I was between two moves and I picked the wrong one and he managed to get a tie that game. And there was another game, again, where my opponent had just a horrendous random. It was Delial in the semifinals of the second one. And the solver says I was winning and I didn't find the concept. And again, my opponent played very precisely and very well to then save said horrible random. So I definitely didn't play perfectly. I made a couple mistakes. I feel like there was a third move I was really unhappy with in there. But that said, I played 15 games and I won a solid chunk of them and was never really in trouble. So very happy with how I played. I think I'm strong at open right now and deservedly in the top 2 as one of the 2 players to win 2 events this month. And our winner to start 2023 for Player of the Month is another player that won 2 events this month. We have Delial, who snuck out GB42, but it's GB43 where he put up a 121 score. Because I was thinking, I value chat tournaments, the weekly opens, higher than I do the GBs. And the chat tournament had 16 players, one of them rather than 8, so I gave extra credit to doing well in the second chat tournament this month because it had 16 players, it had a Hildebrand as a prize, it seemed to me a bigger deal. But I thought, what is harder to do? Score 121 in a GB or win 2 chat tournaments in a row? And if you look at how frequently these 2 events have been done, they're pretty similarly frequent, but I would certainly find it much harder to score 121 in a GB. They're both the kind of things that, have happened 5 to 7 times, right? Something like that. But he also won another GB, and unlike me, he has results in other tournaments. I did play a GB, but I did not make top 4. Had a plus score, but not top 4. And but he is a semi-finalist and a runner-up to go with these 2 titles. So I think in the end it should be Delial, but I think it's pretty close. And that's my top 10 this month. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next month. This starts off the rankings, so Delial is the current leader for my Player of the Year by Player of the Month rankings race. Delial is our initial leader. Last year he came second, but he and Akiyama were dead close. Now I'm forgetting who actually got second. Maybe he came third, but they were a point apart, meaning you switch one 6th and 1/5 for them and suddenly they switch spots. And Turdz was a little ahead of both. So Delial gets off to a good start with a nice points lead over both his 2 main competitors for this. And see you at the end of February. It's my birthday month. Gonna be a good one.